promise I will have some knitting content today. First up, though, are the have-tos, but show you, I do have some a knitted garment on. I'm taking the truck to the dealer for its oil changed. Next segment, segment after the horse stuff, the morning horse stuff, will be the knitting stuff, I promise.
Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala, and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my husband, 2 horses that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wildhorse Adoption Program, and 2 kitties we adopted from the local animal shelter. Information about these adoption programs will be in the show notes for every episode. The purpose of this podcast is to share real-life stories that hopefully are relatable to other crafters who might be interested in horses. The format of this podcast starts with a walk to the barn to feed the horses, catch up on the week, share my knitting projects, and other interests like bicycling or hiking. I also talk about vegetable gardening and cooking. I hope you bring your favorite beverage and a fun, crafty project to work on. Enjoy!
Good morning, friends. I am vlogging on a Thursday because I took the day off to get some hay. So the goal is to fill up that horse trailer with hay. I am lower in hay supply than I ever have been before. This is working out fine. I found a local hay person that is pretty available. The bales are easy for me to handle. Well, I'm not going to say easy. I'm getting 48 of them, and they weigh about 50 pounds, maybe. I'm not sure, but that's a lot more handleable than the 85-pound bales that I would get from the dealer, which was frankly really nice because they would bring it, take it out to the barn, stack it. But it's expensive. It's very expensive. So now that my shoulders are healed and I'm a lot more functional, I thought I would get my own hay while I can. That probably won't last forever, but that doesn't mean we're going to still be in this place forever either. Not that we're moving anytime soon, but with an eye on the future of potential retirement and downsizing and making things simpler for us, we will probably move to a smaller place and board the horses. So this is if you're new here, we have lived here with the horses for 7 years, and before that I always boarded my horses. So there's advantages to both. I mean, it's been awesome having them here and seeing them at least twice a day for feeding. On the other hand, it's also 99% of my time with my horses is looking after them, and not as much like focused training time. I have started to work that in the last, few months. Started to figure that out. It's taken me long enough. But that is the way it goes. So, hi, Bragi. Sorry about that. Spin you around. There's Bragi. Oops, this way. Good morning, Bragi. So Bragi gets locked up at night. It's otherwise, if he's turned out into just a slightly larger space, he just he loses focus and he forgets to eat. So having him locked up at night helps him get the food that he needs and the focus. I mean, it's really a big difference whether he's a domestic horse or a wild horse if I let him out there, because then if I let him out into the bigger space, then he feels like he's a wild horse and he's completely on his own. And he's not completely on his own. So I want him to realize that. So I'm going to get to feeding. I will talk to you when I have some hay. Good morning, friends. Welcome to day 2 of this vlog. It is Friday, April, must be the 24th. I got all my hay unloaded, so yesterday I filled up that trailer with 48 bales of a locally grown Timothy Orchard Mix hay, and I unloaded it all by myself, which you will have seen the method with which I do that. And, you know, I was tired afterwards. I mean, after doing that and tidying things up and getting some other stuff down to the barn, it had been about 3 hours of pretty intense labor, and I'm pleased to report that my shoulders felt good, my body felt good. I took the rest of the day off and knitted, so sorry, it is hard to hold the camera up for a long time. So today, it's early. It's about 6 a.m. and it's quite light. Birds are chirping. Today, Bragi has a lesson with the trainer. We did some stuff that was not with the trailer. We did some, it was kind of emotional for him. What my trainer was asking. Oh, I know. We were going to take him to the round pen, which requires walking down the hall. And there's a bunch of stuff in the aisleway of the barn and part of the challenge for Bragi was to, we wanted him to target just different things in the aisleway, nothing that would hurt him, to engage his curiosity about new things. And all of this is in preparation for a clinic that we are taking him to on May 15th. So it's a weekend-long clinic, and we really want to expose him to new things. So he loves to target things, but being in that aisleway was very emotional for him. So it took a long time, and then this is one thing I really like about my trainer, is that she takes as long as it takes. So we're going to expand on that today. We got him out to the round pen, explored a few things, and then came back. There they are, waiting for breakfast. And today, this morning, I'm going to let O eat some hay, but we're going to do his weekly test of walking up and down that hill that I just came down and up again. So we're up to 8 minutes for his physical therapy, and he's doing really well. So I'm going to get to feeding and get to it. Hey friends, the errands and the have-tos are finally done. We're here to the knitting part. I look like I'm frazzled. My hair is a little, well, maybe more exuberant than usual. Let's talk about what I am wearing. This is the Lola top. It is knitted in 2 kinds of cotton, or 2 colors of cotton. The pattern is by Veronica Lindberg, who also goes by Kuta Vakika. This is the first one I knit. I knit the second one last summer. and it is a tank. So what I love about this top is that it is higher in the front than it is the back. So here we go. So there's really good coverage, and since it's cotton, it's kind of a heavier cotton though, so I don't know how it would do in like a warmer, more humid climate. I did wear this last year when we went to Wisconsin for my nephew's high school graduation. Pretty sure that was last year. Get my chair back up here. And unfortunately, this had to go in the washing machine because my sister and I took a walk in a forested area and came back covered in ticks. And once we got in the house, I mean, it was just like, take all the things off and put on fresh clothes and put all of these tick infested clothes into the washing machine. And that seemed to work. So I'm turning on my computer. I have some notes for a change, which is awesome. I think it's because I took yesterday off to get hay, and that took about 3 solid hours, and then I just took the rest of the afternoon off and knitted and did other fun things, relaxing things really. And so I just had the brain space to make some notes. So welcome to episode 198. I'm sure you're probably aware of that by now. But let's talk about the works in progress, shall we? So while I was at the dealer getting my oil changed, I worked on the project that's in this bag. This is a bag made by my husband with his industrial sewing machine. It's well loved. You can see how beat up it is. It's a faux leather. It's lined with this wool felt, and then the handles are a belt that his mom gave him. This is the sock arms pullover. It's supposed to be a cardigan. I turned it into a pullover, and it's from this book, Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn. I've knit 3 tees out of this, and now this is the 3rd pattern, 4th project. And here's where it is. I'm getting really close to finishing the first sleeve, so I finished the decreases while waiting for my truck to finish, and then I'm just knitting some length. So this is Jeepers Creepers, colorway by Self-Striping Yarn by Freckled Whimsey. The main body is Knit Picks Gloss, which is a merino silk blend, so don't wash this in the washing machine, not superwash. And it is in the colorway Clarity. It's going to be oversized. I'm okay with that. I may, when I do the ribbing around the collar, I may try to cinch it in a little bit. So that's where I'm at with that. It's great to have that time today to watch YouTube and get quite a bit of knitting done. That is that project. The other project that I have been working a lot on is in this bag made by my mom with this, if it'll hold still, this fabulous kitty fabric that I love. And this is the Traveler by Andrea Mowry. I am getting dangerously close to running out of yarn of this main colorway. So I'm working on the back. It's a bottom-up sweater. This main colorway is, both yarns are Cascade 220 sport weight. This main color is variegated. The accent color is this rust color. There's no colorway names. They're just numbers. And I did try to find some of this, like maybe another ball of this, but I couldn't find any. So what I'm going to do, if I have to, is I may end up doing the shoulders in this rust colorway and then do the hood and the sleeves and the rust. So it'll be okay. It's only going to be a few rows, and it'll be the shoulder shaping that ends up. So it's pretty even at this stage. So I may just go until, I might just start doing the short row shaping right now. And it's okay with me if the back is slightly shorter than the front. I think so. I do have another top that's like that, and I think that would be okay. So this is just a really fun, it's a very squishy pattern, squishy fabric. I'm not going to be able to wear it probably the rest of this year. Well, until the cold returns this fall, just because it is so squishy and warm. So it'll be nice to add to my fall wardrobe. What else do I have? This project is getting close to being done, and it is in another bag made by my mom. This is a quilted bag, and it is the Easter basket cowl. So I'm doing the last colorwork section. I ended up having to rip this section out because I didn't like it. I didn't like the colors that I chose for it initially. So it was always my intention to use this sort of yellows and blues. Well, the chicks obviously needed this orange feet. And then there was this carrot section that carrots need to be orange, even though I made the leaves blue. So I could have made it yellow. I had plenty of yarn. And then I kind of lost track of my vision, and I started to do this main color behind the bunnies in the orange, and I really didn't like it. Knowing that the border, which is next, is going to be in these blues and yellows. So I ripped it out and started with this medium blue instead. So, excuse me, I may use, and this is all scrap stash yarn, so I may use this medium blue as the first part of the border as well. So stay tuned. I'm hoping to have this done by the end of April. So I'm going to focus most of my attention on this cowl. I'm going to focus most of my attention on this since the end of April is right around the corner. And the reason for that is there's a knit along starting on May 1st, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to take a sip of my tea. I'm drinking a non-caffeinated tea. I hope you have something nice to drink and have a project to work on as we catch up. And also I brought this project out of hibernation. This is a bag also made by my mom. This is the first bag she ever made me, project bag that she made me. And it is quilted. It has a zipper. And this fabulous dragonfly fabric. And these are I forgot to talk about the pattern in this. And I haven't talked about the needles on any of these. My project pages are linked in the show notes. So if you click more, you probably know how to do this. So if you, under the video and in the description, you click more, you might have to click more a couple times. And then all my project pages are there with the needle size. What I will say about this, I went a whole needle size up. So in other words, 1 millimeter up for the colorwork section. So I'm going to see how that blocks out, because I do tend to be a little grippy with my colorwork, because I knit colorwork two-handed, and my gauge is tighter with my right hand than my left. All that to say, so this is a pattern by Kate Jones. They are the Lemontop socks, and I finished the heel flap, and I'm starting in the gusset decreases. So this is kind of a cool spiral pattern that I hope you can see. So it just leans that way. And then here's the heel flap and gusset. And like I said, I'm working on the gusset decreases. So, and I use a US size 0 when I'm knitting left-handed, which is my preferred, which I think is continental style. So I'm a picker because my gauge is looser when I knit that way than when I knit when I throw with my right hand. I think Kate F. Jones. This I'm not sure if this is one of her paid for patterns or one of her paid. It's on Ravelry, so I'm guessing it's one of her. Anyone can buy it. So her patterns are really fun and they're very simple. They're very well written. So highly recommend her patterns. This is another Freckled Whimsey self-striping. It's called Phoenix Tears and is part of the Harry Potter collection. And then this kind of lemony color is the contrast color, which I didn't do the heel, and I did the cuff, but not the heel. So I may do the toe, but those are my whips. So I know this is sort of supposed to be a knitting podcast, and I got done with the whole knitting section in 12 minutes, but I am going to talk a little bit more about my knitting plan. So I hope you're interested in that and would like to stay. I'm doing a big focused Stashdown this year, and I have lots of thoughts about what I'm going to do with scraps. I shared last week one of the Woolen Women skeins that I got in the mail. It's my last one that I am getting. I think for moving forward, I don't really care for scrappy socks. I mean, some of my skeins I have like definitely at least 50 grams. So I will for sure do another pair of socks out of that. I think for the most part, for my smaller scraps, I may start doing a few blankets. I also have some scrappy DK yarn, which brings me to the Make Along. It is in the Love and Stitches membership, and the pattern designer that we're doing the Make Along is Rebecca Clow. She's also known as the Crayabea. She's a very prolific knitwear designer from Scotland, and I am going to do the Staffin Lite. And you remember my wedding shawl that I crocheted out of a merino cashmere DK weight? Well, when I started that, I had 2 cones of that yarn. So I have plenty of yarn, and I'm going to do the Staffin Lite out of the remainder of that. So it's going to be that really nice cream colored yarn. So, it's DK, the pattern is DK. So I'm all ready for that to start. What else am I up to? So my Stashdown plans are, I'm finished the Easter basket cowl in April, cast on the Staffin Lite by Rebecca Clow, May 1st, finish the Traveler by the end of May, because that's when that cowl completes. So hopefully I can do that. That'll be my focus knitting. Finish the sock arms, pullover, whenever it gets finished. I'm not in a hurry for that. But, once I start finishing projects, then I like to cast on something else. So, and I've talked about this crochet top from a 2012 magazine that I have some gray cotton yarn. And I was thinking about maybe putting in some scrap pops of color in there. So we'll see. But I hope to do that this summer too, as a summer tee. And then at some point finish the Lemontop socks, and then finish the rest of them. I have 2 other hibernating projects. So I have the Purr-fect colorwork socks. Those are the the main color is pink, and they are cat socks. So I haven't worked on those in a long time. And then also the Surf Wax socks by Summer Lee in a Freckled Whimsey self-striping yarn. So those are the hibernating ones. I have occasionally worked on my 100-acre wood blanket. You know, blankets, I don't really consider those hibernating necessarily because I just pick them up and work on them when I can. So that's what that has been all about. Last episode, so I'm just going to get into the life stuff and kind of, you know, recap what how the week went. So if you're here just for the crafty stuff, thanks for stopping by. I hope the beginning wasn't too much of a burden for you. And we'll catch up next time. But in the meantime, for the rest of you who would like to catch up on life stuff, I already talked about what we did with Bragi. My trainer and I did with Bragi last week. Saturday, Randy and I went skiing. So hence the title of last episode was It's Still Ski Season or something like that. I don't think I mentioned it last week because I was having a lot of trepidation about going. The ski area that we went to is closed, but Randy and I have backcountry gear. That's how we met in 2007, is in an avalanche safety course for backcountry skiers. So we have a long history of backcountry skiing, and I just haven't done that much skiing in the last few years because it's just the weather has been terrible. The backcountry's gotten crowded, and skiing inbounds in the resort areas is really expensive. So I've kind of lost my enthusiasm for skiing. However, and then I had my shoulder injuries last year. So potentially falling is a big deal. So I had a lot of trepidation about it, but I said, okay, it was going to be a gorgeous day. There had been fresh snow like the previous Thursday or something, Thursday night, like several inches of snow. So I was like, okay, I'm going to gear up. I'm going to try it. I am also going to take my knitting and a book in case I scare myself silly and need to go sit in the car or in the, whatever you call it, in the cafe, because the cafe was still open. So we got going. Like I said, it was a beautiful day. There were lots of other skiers who were, it's called skinning up. That's how you get up the hill, is that you have skins. They're not actual animal skins. I think traditionally they were, because the nap keeps your ski from sliding backwards. I mean, now they're they're some sort of polyester stuff. What am I trying to say? Synthetic is the word that I'm looking for. Anyway, we skied up, and, you know, I was still having a lot of trepidation and, quite frankly, some uncharitable thoughts about this idea. But we got up to the top. You know, I took my time. I really thought about, you know, there's no shame in being scared of something that I used to enjoy, but circumstances change. So I just went with that attitude, and then when we got up to the top, I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to come down. It's going to be one turn at a time. It could take me longer to get down than it did to get up, which was, you know, it took long enough to get up the hill. But, you know, I started and I would make a turn, and then I would make another turn, and then I would make another turn. And I would just, you know, after every turn, I would stop and reset. And I think this is a good metaphor for life. If you're uncertain about something, do what you know how to do, and then stop and reset. And then do what you know how to do and stop and reset. And, you know, about a third of the way down the hill, I was kind of getting my legs under me. And I was like, maybe I can make 2 turns. Maybe I can make 3 turns. And I think ultimately I made 4 or 5 turns in a row. And by then we were getting pretty close to the bottom. So it was really fun. Neither one of us wanted to go back up. For one thing, it was quite a warm weekend. It was hot. And, you know, you can probably see I have a little color in my face. But who knows? I could be just excited. So we finished up and it was great. So, you know, confidence restored, skis on snow for the first time since November of 2024. So that was great. And then oh, I know what I forgot to mention. On Friday, I had a riding lesson. So that was really great. We did a bunch of poles and I rode that lovely thoroughbred mare, Ember. She knows how to do some things, but she's not very strong. And she doesn't, when poles are really close together on the ground, she doesn't know how to arrange her feet. So, you know, at first I got her walking over the poles. And this is a really good exercise for horses because it helps them use their core, which is good for all of us. But then when the exercise got more complicated, I let her walk through the poles, like if there was a whole series of poles. And then we trotted through the exercise that had 3 poles. And that worked out really well. And she did great. So then ski on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it was another absolutely gorgeous day. We were supposed to go to a play, but it was hard to think about going indoors. So we decided to ride our bikes. And we rode our bikes through the local forest. And then we got on a rails to trails trail and rode into town and had a cup of coffee. And we were supposed to get back, and it was supposed to Zoom with my mom and my sister, but Randy and I were still drinking coffee in town with our bikes. So I asked for some grace, and Randy and I rode our bikes back. The trail was getting really crowded at that point, so we decided to cut back through the forest and then take our initial plan was to ride to the north end of the trail, which would have been a few more miles, but it was getting really crowded at that point. So we decided to cut back into the forest, and we rode this where it was very nice and quiet, rode gravel, and then rode up this really steep hill. I confess I walked the steepest parts of it, and then rode home. So it was a great, lovely weekend, and full of outdoor adventure, and that was super fun. This weekend, we are taking our bikes to the east side of the mountains, and we are going to ride the Cascade Palouse Trail, which is also a rails to trails. It goes across the entire state of Washington. We've ridden sections of it. Randy's ridden the whole thing probably 10 or 15 years ago. But we've just been section riding it together, and that's been really fun. So we're going to go over there and ride a couple sections and go have dinner at a very nice restaurant and stay over and then come back on Sunday. So that's really fun, which brings me back to the knitting. What am I going to take? Well, I am for sure going to take the Easter basket cowl. And I should take, since thinking, you know, talking about my prioritization, I should take the Traveler as well. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Let me see. What else do I want to talk about today? So I haven't really mentioned Odin. We're up to about 8 minutes of PT exercises for him. So that's going well. He's still on a diet. I put the weight tape on him, and he was down like a lot of weight over the last couple weeks. But then when I put the weight tape on him, he puffed himself out, and I was like, that is not helpful. So it's really hard to get an accurate sense of his weight, especially when he braces for, like, it's like when you put on a saddle and you're tightening the girth. And it's like, so I asked my vet for some advice on like what should he be, how many pounds of hay should he have? So so hopefully it's not too much different. He has been losing weight on this diet, and he definitely looks better, but he's still like, when I put my hand against his rib cage, it's still, I have to press pretty hard to find some ribs in there. So what else? Gardening. I've been harvesting overwintered greens, and the sprouted broccoli that I planted last fall is very productive. I harvested probably like 4 cups of that, at least, maybe 6 cups of sprouting broccoli yesterday. So that's very tasty. It's purple, but when you cook it, it turns green. And that is about it. So hopefully you enjoyed the content, and you're finding some knitting inspiration and maybe some inspiration to get outside, especially if the weather is pleasant and I'm gonna say warm, but not too hot, not too cold, not too stormy, just really good weather. So take care, everyone, and I'll see you next week.